Welcome back to Forgotten Genocides, the unquenchable pyre where we incinerate the lies of leaders and resurrect the roar of the ravaged. Today, we plunge machete deep into the maelstrom with Uncovering the Rwandan Genocide, Lessons We Still Ignore. The 100-day apocalypse of 1994 that butchered 800,000 souls in a frenzy of frenzy, a nation's heart hacked from its chest while the world averted its eyes. Imagine it, mist-shrouded hills cradling communities bound by banana groves and bloodlines, Hutu and Tutsi weaving tapestries of tolerance for centuries, shredded in a storm of machetes and malice that turned brothers into butchers, neighbors into butchers, humanity into a howling void. Over the next minutes, we'll hack through the hate, the colonial seeds of schism, the radio's venomous venom, the UN's gutless gaze, the women's warrior wails, the children's cratered cries, and the reconciliation's ragged rebirth. Viewer discretion. This truth will rend your ribs and roar in your veins. Its education forged in the forges of Kigali's killing fields, a reckoning that demands your rage and your remorse. If the 800,000's unfinished screams stab your silence, subscribe now and surge with us. Let's lacerate the legacy of neglect, or let it lacerate us anew. To unmask this monster, we must unearth the festering foundation, not the tidy tribal clash of 1994's headlines, but the Belgian batons that bashed a 1,000-year harmony into hate's hammer. Pre-colonial Rwanda? A mosaic of Hutu farmers and Tutsi herders intermarrying like rivers mingling, kings crowned without carnage. But 1916's Great War ghosts gifted Belgium the mandate, and with it the myth of Hamitic superiority. Tutsi as superior invaders, Hutu as inferior natives, identities inked on IDs like scarlet sentences. What the annals asphyxiate? The Belgians' bigoted blueprint, Tutsi elevated as clerks and chiefs, Hutu herded to the margins, a divide deepened by divide and rule decrees that dripped like poison into wells of trust. By 1959's Hutu revolution, the backlash boiled over. Tutsi intellectuals impaled on stakes, 300,000 exiles fleeing to Uganda's embrace, seeds of exiles' enmity sown in soil soaked with spite. The 1990 RPF invasion, Tutsi rebels reclaiming their ravaged roots, ignited the inferno, Hutu powers Hydra hissing Tutsi cockroaches from RTLM radios, a venom that vitiated the veins of a nation. Up to that precipice, pogroms like 1973's Bugesera, hundreds hacked in a hurricane of hate, were spasms of the serpent. But the genocide, a state-sponsored supernova, the deadliest in its demonic democracy, 70% of Tutsis, 10% of Hutus in 100 days of delirium, a blueprint for barbarity that bellows from the grave. Feel the fracture? This wasn't tribal. It was engineered enmity, a legacy that lacerates the land like lightning scars. April 6, 1994, the plane's plummet, Habyarimana's assassination, wasn't accident. It was the apocalypse's alarm, unleashing the Interahamwe's inferno, 800,000 eviscerated in a whirlwind of wedges and warnings. What the broadcasts bury in bandwidth, or TLM's rancid rhetoric, the Hutu 10 Commandments screeching Tutsi as serpents to be slain, songs like Kill the Cockroach, a siren song to slaughter. Families fled to churches, Nyamata's nave, 2,500 souls sanctuary and sanctity, only for grenades to grenade the gates, machetes to mince the meek in pews stained with sacraments and screams. Up to 250,000 women ravaged, their bodies battlegrounds for ethnic purification, pregnancies poisoned with HIV as legacy of loathing. The deadliest in its domesticity, husbands hacking wives in kitchens, teachers turning on pupils with rulers as rapiers, children clubbed in classrooms where alphabets once echoed. Kigali's streets, once symphony of street vendors, became slaughterhouses. Corpses carted in carts, rivers like Nyabarongo bloated with bloating bodies, crocodiles feasting on the fallen. The UN's UNAMIR, 10,500 blue helmets bound by Belgian binds, watched from barricades as the butchers bayed. Dalair's desperate dispatches drowned in bureaucracy's bog. Up to 10,000 Tutsis sheltered in hotels by hotelier Paul Rusesabagina. A flicker in the flame, but the world, a whimper of withdrawal. The US gagging on genocide like Gaul, France's Operation Turquoise, a tardy tango with the tigers. This wasn't oversight, it was obscenity, a genocide that scaled from whispers to worldwide wailing, the deadliest because it dared the divine in daylight, a democracy devouring its daughters while the globe gawked. The women's apocalypse in Rwanda wasn't collateral, it was the core of the carnage, a gendered genocide that gouged the womb of a nation. What the Wire reports whisper away. The rape capital of the world, 250,000 to 500,000 survivors scarred by systematic savagery. Tutsi women herded to rape camps, their bodies invaded by HIV-laced horrors, pregnancies a legacy of loathing, infants branded enemy seed and bashed against walls. Mukamana, a Hutu mother who hid Tutsis in her hut, her heart hammering as Interahamwe hammered the door, her lie a lifeline, her love a lash that saved 20 souls from the scythe. Up to 20,000 comfort women in Hutu powers hellholes, violated in villages while villagers watched or wielded the weapons. The deadliest in its domestic desecration, daughters defiled in family compounds, sisters sold for a sack of maize, elders enduring endless violations till death was deliverance. Yet from this violation, valor vaulted. Women like Rose, machete-scarred survivor, founding cooperatives in the rubble, weaving baskets from broken branches, their threads a tapestry of tenacity. The screams still seep through savannas, a siren that shrieks for the world's shame. UN peacekeepers pulling back pistols while perpetrators pillaged, the international community a chorus of cowards. Feel their ferocity. Africa's daughters, rising from rape's rubble, their blood a balm that bellows for the balance of justice. The children's cataclysm in Rwanda wasn't footnote, it was the foulest felony, a kindergarten of killers where innocence was impaled. What the casualty counts compress to cold statistics. The small boys conscripted by RTLM's rancor, 10-year-olds wielding wedges with whispers of Tutsi Inkotanyi, hacking schoolmates in playgrounds where hopscotch once hopped. Up to 300,000 orphans, orphaned anew. Their parents pulped in pits, little ones lapping latrines for water while wild dogs devoured the dead. Nyamata's nursery of nightmares, 2,000 children crammed in a church, grenades granulating granite walls, machetes mincing the meek as mothers shielded with hymns, the deadliest in its diabolical cradle robbery. Tutsi toddlers tossed into latrines like trash. Hutu, children brainwashed into butchers, their tiny hands slick with siblings' blood. Imagine the innocence inverted. Playgrounds, pools of blood, crayons coloring carnage, lullabies laced with lies of victory. Up to 400,000 young lives lacerated, their absence a ache that aches through generations. The genocide's legacy a litany of lost laughter. Yet in this nursery of nightmares, nurseries of hope nursed. Foyer de Charité's shelters, where survivors like Bosco stitched stories from scars, their tales a thunder that thunders for the world's weeping. Hear their half-uttered hymns, a generation gutted but not gone, their ghosts gripping the guilty with ghostly grips. The world's whimper in Rwanda wasn't ignorance, it was iniquity incarnate, a global gaffe that gilds the genocide with guilt. What the diplomatic dispatches dissemble? The UN's UNAMIR, 2,500 troops tethered by troop ties, Dalair's despairing cables. They are killing at night and no one stops it, drowned in New York's no-action nebula. Belgium's bolt after 10 peacekeepers butchered, pulling the pin on the powder keg. France's humanitarian halo, arming the architects of annihilation till the anvil fell. The US, scarred by Somalia's sting, strangled genocide in State Department semantics, Clinton's confession, later a coward's croak. Up to 800,000 in 100 days, faster than the Holocaust's harvest, while Boutros Ghali babbled of civil war. The Security Council shrinking from 5,000 to 270 troops, a retreat that reeks of racism's rank refusal. The deadliest in its dawning denial. Albright's abstention, Annan's anguish ignored. The international community, a cabal of cravens cowering behind sovereignty's skirt. Feel the farce. A continent convulsed while capitals clinked champagne, Rwanda's rivers red with rebuke, the genocide's ghost goading us to gaze inward at our own genocidal gaze. This wasn't mishap, it was malice masked as mandate, a legacy that lacerates the League of Nations, screaming for a reckoning that rings eternal. The Rwandan rupture's zenith of zeniths, not the kill count's cold calculus, but the nadir of neglect that nurtured the nightmare. 800,000 eviscerated in emerald enclaves, a genocide that scaled from whispers to worldwide wailing in weeks, the deadliest in its democratic delusion. Neighbors neighbored into butchers, radios ranting the rhetoric of rats, the world watching with wired windows. Feel the finality? Families flensed in front yards, fiddles forever silenced in Kigali's cafes, futures flayed from the flesh of the fledgling. The scale, a black hole of brotherhood, where 70% of Tutsis, 10% of Hutus vanished in a vortex of vengeance, machetes minted from the metal of mistrust, rivers regurgitating remains for months. But in this void, valor vaulted. Kagame's RPF rebels, ragged but relentless, reclaiming Rwanda from the rubble, women like Pauline Nyiramasuhuko. Yes, the Minister of Family Welfare turned machete maiden, facing the Hague's hammer for her horrors. Up to 120,000 perpetrators in prisons of penitence, Gacaca courts grinding justice from the grit of grief, a reckoning that reconciles the ruptured. The deadliest, because it dared the divine in the daylight, a democracy devouring its daughters, yet from its depths, a phoenix forged, Rwanda's rebirth, 7% growth in the grave's glow, a genocide that birthed a balm for the broken world. How can we behold such blackness without breaking? The hills themselves heave with the weight, the deadliest genocide not in death's tally, but in the daring to dream of division, a dirge that demands we dance in unity or dissolve in discord. The Rwandan rift's legacy? A laceration on liberty's ledger, birthing the International Criminal Tribunal, Kagame's constitutional conundrum, a nation stitched from the shreds of schism, up to 96% reconciliation in Gacaca's grace, women's 61% parliamentary pulse, a pulse of the phoenix, yet shadows stalk, exiles' enmity in Congo's camps, youth yearning for the yesteryears of unity, the world's whisper of never again, wilting in whimpers, the untold. Survivors unbreaking alchemy, Immaculée Ilibagiza hiding in bathroom bathtubs, her left to tell. A testament to tenacity, Paul Rusesabagina's Hotel Rwanda Haven, a harbor in the hurricane. Sources: Philip Gourevitch, as we wish to inform you that tomorrow we will be killed with our families. For the marrow of misery, Samantha Powers, A Problem from Hell. For the world's whimper, Human Rights Watch, and Rwandan Archives for the unvarnished verdict. Gacaca transcripts for the grace of the grappled. If this maelstrom mangled your marrow, if the 800,000's unfinished thunder thunders in your temples, like this video, unleash your lament in comments. Which lesson from Rwanda lacerates loudest? Share to shatter the schism. Subscribe to Forgotten Genocides for more maelstroms, like our next mauling of the Cambodian cataclysm. Thank you for withstanding the whirlwind with us. In their unyielding unity, we undo the divide.